Welcome to the IT Smart Guy podcast, a technology podcast aimed at the modern business owner. And here's your host, Tony Edwards. Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the IT Smart Guy podcast, the tech-based podcast for the modern business owner. I'm Tony, and in this episode, we will discuss the use of shadow IT, and we also have our first guest interview featuring a very special lady. Then at the end, I'll be sharing my tip of the episode. Let's jump in, Joey. Let's look at what's happening in the news. The cost of living crisis continues in the UK, with the risk of recession rising as the economy takes a dive, and energy price fears could see more people return to the office. Now, let's not beat around the bush. The world has taken a battering over the last couple of years. First there was the pandemic, then there's the war on the Ukraine, and now we've got the cost of living stuff. The pandemic changed the landscape for everybody. And what life and business was like back then is just that. Back then. We're never going to be going back to that life. The longer we live in the past, the less life we have to enjoy. The UK government seems to be ploughing billions of pounds and spending billions of pounds to keep the energy crisis at bay. And let's be blunt, I feel it's just a way of pasting over the cracks. But this could also be a way of people leaving their work from home setup and heading back to the office. Now, I've had chats with people over the past week or so, and they're starting to see some of their clients' staff moving away from being 100% work from home and becoming hybrid workers, basically as a way of reducing their energy usage in the winter. Now, hybrid working is the way I envisage the post-pandemic world to go to. Working from home 100% of the time is okay for a time. Now, I work from home. In fact, I'm recording this from my office, which at present is the back of my living room. It's not ideal, but it's better than my bedroom, which is where my office was during the pandemic. But from a tech perspective, people going back to the office gifts IT departments or outsourced IT people the opportunity to get their hands back on physical devices, reduce the risk of shadow IT, and re-establish stronger lines of communication with the workforce. Now, when I say shadow IT, this term relates to any devices, software, or services that sit outside of the ownership or control of the IT department of a business. The use of shadow IT is typically used by staff as a way to try and work more efficiently, and it's exploded over recent years. Examples include using a different file sharing platform or sending work documents to personal emails and things like that. Now, why shouldn't people be allowed to do this sort of thing, I can hear you ask? And there are lots of reasons, but the biggest one is around, can you guess? That's right, security. If the IT department of a business isn't aware of the use of an application, how can they support its use, meet the needs of the business from an operational perspective, and ensure it meets the requirements when it comes to data security? They just can't do it. Now, Gartner, who are an industry analyst company, predicted pre-pandemic that by the end of 2020, over 30% of successful cyber attacks would be down to the use of shadow IT within enterprises. Now, don't get me wrong, not every piece of shadow IT is dangerous, but using multiple file sharing applications could lead to sensitive data leaks. I've seen parents let their kids use their work devices to play Minecraft. Now, if that device belongs to you, your IT department can't stop you, but they should enforce a lockdown profile for work. It's a work device. You're not only putting that corporate network and corporate data at risk, but also your job. The other big risk comes down to money. Shadow IT can be a waste of money because different departments could be unknowingly buying duplicate solutions or services. So if it's so risky, why has it become a problem? That's simple. Getting approval for software or services from the board of directors or an IT department can take time. And that time is seen as a bottleneck to productivity, especially when they think a new piece of software or service can be spun up and set up quickly and simply. If it's so risky, why has it become a problem? That's simple. Getting approval for the use of software or a service from the board of directors or the IT department can take time. And this time is often seen as a bottleneck to productivity, especially when they think that this new software or service will solve their issue and can be set up quickly and simply. So what can we do to reduce the use of shadow IT? Compromise. We need to find a middle ground that gives end users the ability to find the solutions that might work best for them, but allow IT to control the data and user permissions. This will lessen the burden on IT because it will mean that end users don't need to request solutions, and it gives IT time to focus on the stuff that is business critical. Now, another option would be to work with your staff and IT to design a list of applications that are pre-approved. Quite often, outsourced IT support companies will have a list of apps that they're happy to support and then work with the client to add anything specific to that business. So, that's a little bit about shadow IT, and that's the news. How about we jump straight into that interview? The interview. So, for the interview this episode, I have decided to bring somebody in as my very first guest, a little bit begrudgingly. There's that saying that behind a great man is an even greater woman, and it's definitely the case in this respect. Now, I consume a lot of podcasts, and it's extremely rare to hear from the people that provide that emotional support. So I thought, why not bring my wife in as this very first guest? She has kicked my ass more times than I can remember, and that's just for forgetting to take the bins out or sleeping on the sofa. I'm not joking, I'm deadly serious. But she is also my number one fan and has supported me through going to university and also my corporate career and then into self-employment and business ownership. So I would like to welcome, like I said, my wife Kasha as guest one for the IT Smart Guy podcast. Hi Kasha, welcome.
Oh, hello.
Um, firstly, before we really start, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. I know it's something that is extremely outside of your comfort zone, so I just want to say thank you for that. Um, my first question really is a bit of an intro into you, who you are, what you do, that sort of thing.
Okay, as you already said, I'm your wife. I have been kicking your ass for a very long time, ever since we met a very long time ago, it seems. Or not so long ago on other days. It seems like we only met. But the time flies.
Yeah, it does. Brilliant. Thank you. So you mentioned, we've been together a long time, and it has been a long time. I think 15 years, and if you think back all that time ago when we met, essentially I was your boss at a rather well-known fast food chain. Um, do you remember that back that at that time? And if you do, what was it you saw in me that thought, oh, maybe this guy is a bit better than just flipping burgers?
I think ever since I've met you, the most important thing about you was that you always wanted to do what you were doing the best. You wanted to make sure that everything's done to the best standards, and you knew, I think, even back then, what was it you were going to do. It's just you needed somebody there to give you a little push and a little bit of a kick to say, go on, you can go and do what you want. You just have to believe in yourself. And I'll be there to help you with this.
Brilliant. So yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because you think back, and the way I was back then, it was very much probably process oriented. You know, everything, like you said, everything had a way of it being done, and that was very much that mantra back then. And I think even now, there's things that I do, and it's very much it has to be done in a certain order. Much like making a Big Mac. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely.
Um, So that's what you saw in me. You saw that I could, just needed a bit of a kick.
A
But do you
little
remember
push.
back to how we met?
Oh, such a long time ago. Do you think I can remember that? I cannot probably, remember the exact time, but I do remember you sitting on your break sometimes and looking at me and thinking, maybe this woman should be the one. No, I'm kidding. Who knows? You were probably thinking, "Oh my God, she needs to finish work soon and go to her child again." I honestly don't remember. I do
Yeah.
know that something happened, but not too sure when and how. It was slow process, I think, rather than
Yeah, I think it was.
one look.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't a lightning strike, love at first sight moment, was it? I think for either of us, because from my memory back then, we barely, spoke to each other or even worked together, despite me being one of your bosses, um, for at least a year. Because
Yeah.
you would typically work mornings because Natalia was only what 2. And then I was the night owl that I still am, and I preferred to work in the afternoons and evenings. So there was a little bit of crossover every now and again, but other than that, we really didn't work together or even get to know each other until that summer where you were able to work a bit different, a bit of a different work pattern for the those 6 weeks, and that's kind of where it all I suppose it all changed, and we caught each other's eye over the deep fat fryer, as it were. Um, so, what is it you've been doing other than kicking my ass over the last 15 years, and what are your aspirations for the future?
Um, so I have been working at a very big supermarket chain for 14 years. That seems like a lifetime, right? Somebody did say to me that I have become a furniture at the place I work. Not surprised. Um, of course, rating the kids, being there for them. And now, as you said, because you decided that it's time for you to kick my ass last year and say, go on, now it's your turn to go and do something because you always wanted to do something else rather than stay in the place you are. So I started studying. I've been studying bookkeeping. And yeah, I found out earlier today that I've got the job I've been trying to get for past few months, and this is very exciting. It's like a completely new chapter in my life, but as you said earlier, all of us lives as well, because all of you now have to step up and be there a little bit more. It's a cooking dinner every day, not just once in a while for you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Congratulations on getting this new position.
Yeah,
When you
thank
rung me
you.
earlier to let me know, I was over the moon for you, because it's been a long road. You know, you essentially put your career aspirations on hold to kick my ass to go back to go into university,
Yeah, but
and
I
then
did
from
say,
there it was we got Matthew came along, we got married. I then found a job, a proper job. Had a couple of them, and then the pandemic hit, and you kicked my ass into going self-employed, and now it's like you said, the shoe's on the other foot, and it's my turn to give you the kick every so often now to make sure that you get to where you should be, because you've like you said, you've been in this supermarket chain for 14 years, and it's probably at least 10 years too long. So I'm really, really happy for you.
thank you so much. But as I said before, I'm only gonna be working for a while until you start making those millions, and I can be your full-time bookkeeper. Kidding. No, I am going to be where I'm going, hopefully for a while. I can progress and get further ahead
Yeah.
and grow. But we'll wait and see. Watch this space, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And who knows, maybe things will get so good that, for either for yourself or for me or for both, that you can become, one of those ladies at lunch.
And we go on a holiday every few months, yeah?
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah, maybe you can start up your own bookkeeping company and start running it out of Dubai or something like that. It happens. I've seen it on LinkedIn.
Yes, you never
It's on
know.
LinkedIn. It has to be true.
Definitely, right?
So yeah, I did have a slight ulterior motive to bringing you on as guest number one, and that is just to say to the two viewers I've got, or in front of the two viewers I've got, thank you so much for being that boot up the arse. Because if it wasn't for you, my life probably would have continued at that level of flipping burgers for a living, getting bored of it, resenting it, and then God knows what happening. And if you hadn't come into my life, that's probably what it would be like. So that is a really heartfelt thank you. And I don't normally like doing this soppy stuff, but especially over video, because it just feels a little bit weird and impersonal. But like I said, thank you very much. I love you to bits, and yeah, good luck on the new job. So when does that start?
Oh,
Or can't you tell
what
me
did
yet?
we say? 3 weeks.
3 weeks, brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. My boss doesn't know yet, so my current boss doesn't know yet. So hopefully, by the time this episode is live, he will. So
Yeah, so this episode will go out on Friday, the 14th of October. At some point during the day, I haven't really, as it's kind of guest episode one, and I'm still finding my feet. It kind of goes out when it's ready. But if it's ready later tonight, which is the 13th, I'll make sure it doesn't go out until at least 9:30 tomorrow morning, just to give you a couple of hours to go, oi, matey, here's my notice. All right?
I'll be doing it first thing tomorrow. No going back and stopping now.
Brilliant.
But I
Like I said,
also am not gonna stop and kick your ass, you know that.
yeah, I
No
know.
chance.
Brilliant. Like I said, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for being my personal ass kicker and number one fan, and for everything you've done to support me. Like I said, this one is a bit of a soft and soppy interview. In fact, the whole podcast this week is going to be a bit of a soft and soppy, more of a personal development vibe to it than a super techie one. But after all, everybody loves a bit of sop and stuff every once in a while, don't they? So
Exactly.
thank you so much. We'll end the interview there, and it's now going to be time to move on to the tip of the episode. Our tip of the episode. So before we just jump into the tip of the episode, I just want to thank Kasha once again for coming on to the podcast. Now, this episode's tip is just as important in your business life as it is in your personal life. Have someone special in your life, someone who will have your back no matter what. It could be a friend, a spouse. It could even be someone you do business with. If that relationship is solid and you feel you can trust them with your life, keep that relationship alive. They'll help you through the dark times and they'll celebrate with you in the light. Nobody will ever be universally liked. Have that person or people in your corner that do, because you never really know when you'll need them. Being in business is lonely sometimes, especially if you're new to it. You don't know what you don't know. You will expect one thing, but then the opposite happens. A friend of mine said to me that success breeds confidence, and confidence brings success. First couple of times I heard him say it, I didn't really get it. But now I see it that anyone can be successful and anyone can be confident. about finding your groove and getting everything in balance in life, business, or whatever you choose. So find your person, find your tribe. Once you have, don't let complacency in and let those relationships falter. We've now reached the end of this episode. It's a bit more of a personal one this time around, but we'll be back next time with more technology insight. For now, I've been Tony, the IT Smart Guy. Thank you so much for listening or watching. I truly hope that you've enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to speaking to you again next time. If you have enjoyed this episode, please do let us know by leaving a review. And we'd love you to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, if you haven't checked out Grow Radio at growradio.uk, you can find us and a ton of other amazing podcasts there too. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to the IT Smart Guy podcast. We hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we'd love for you to like and subscribe on your podcast platform of choice.